Do it.
We will.
How's the levels?
I think they're great.
Good.
Welcome to another episode of Comedy Wham Presents with me, your host Valerie, coming to you from Moon Tower 2018. ComedyWham.com is your place to go for features about all Austin comedy and those passing through Austin. We bring you articles and podcasts featuring the best in Austin comedy in all its shapes and formats. Started in 2016, the podcast project brings you funny people and their stories. As a fan, I like to delve into a comic's background and motivations, and will usually take a detour along the way. Consider the interviews a way for you to get to know the folks that make the Austin comedy scene one of the best in the country. Deep breath, everyone. Today, I sit down with what for many of you will be a familiar voice for fans of Bob's Burgers. He's a perennial favorite at Moon Tower Comedy Festival, and every year at the Just for Laughs Festival in Montreal, he delivers his State of the Industry, a biting, incisive look at the state of comedy. He's made countless TV appearances, and for his wild and chaotic stage presence, he wouldn't have earned all of those film credits if he wasn't one of the hardest working comics in the industry. He's one of the best comics to follow on Twitter. His high-profile shade of a certain British superstar has become legendary over the last year, and for the record, as if my opinion mattered, I fully side with our guest on this one. And now I am beyond thrilled to welcome to Comedy Wham Presents our guest, Andy Kindler.
I love that introduction.
Oh
That
my-
made me excited, and it's like, wow, who does she have on? What I was saying at that point. Now, I did say I'm going to eat things, but I won't eat now.
Go for it. Just
You don't want a coughing guest.
no.
No, I've never. In fact, I can either eat or act. I can't do both.
Yeah.
So that's always a problem. Because it always bothers me in soap operas when they don't close their mouth when they chew.
Oh.
But now Ricky Gervais, I think the whole world agrees with me now. I'm hoping. I was ahead of the curve.
I think there are some people that are still fighting it, but no.
Well, no, there are people who love him.
Yeah,
People
there are.
love him.
Yeah.
But his last special was so awful. I had to back off of interacting with him because he really kind of got under my skin, and he was like very effective at it.
He really is. I mean, he's
He's a troll. He is a human
He's an
troll.
expert troll. Yeah.
Who
It is-
happened to do The Office years ago.
Yeah.
But his Office was great, but since then he's become just a jerk.
Yeah. I play a movie game with a friend of mine, and we just watched Muppets Most Wanted, which he's in.
Right.
And it's like, because I'd written this ahead of time, and I came on the side of Andy on the big debate. I'm like, oh, I really don't want to watch this movie.
How was the movie?
It's a Muppet movie. What
Right.
can you say?
I would say that Ricky Gervais could ruin a Muppet movie.
Tina Fey, however, is in it, and so that that
Counteracted.
makes it, yeah.
And
that-
yeah. The thing that if you see his last special though, it's so clear. Like he does a whole thing about Caitlyn Jenner, and it's all trans.
Yeah,
He's like I'm not. It's like basically he's not afraid to go after trans people. I mean, what is his point?
Yeah.
His
Yeah.
humor is based. With his trans humor is based on make up your mind. What's your sex gonna be?
Yeah.
It's so like trying to find the last group that you can mock,
Yeah.
as opposed to just writing some material.
Yeah. The way I described it, and I clocked out after about 10, 15 minutes of watching it.
Oh, you tried to watch it?
I tried to watch it, yeah. And this was before I actually just recently started listening to your podcast.
Oh, Thought Spiral.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. So I didn't really have the full take on that you had. I had just been watching the Twitter
Right, feud.
drama, and my thought was, man, this is really mean-spirited.
Yes.
And there's, as you know, as the person who does the state of the industry, you know that there are ways to attack somebody without necessarily being mean-spirited.
Right.
And as a fan, I'm not saying that I'm an expert analyst on this, but that's what I honed in on is, this is just mean-spirited. I love it when somebody attacks. Like, as an example, a Big J. Okerson. Oh, man,
Yeah.
he will go after somebody, but I've never thought he was mean-spirited.
Well, he's a stand-up comedian. Ricky Gervais is not a stand-up comedian, and I'm not an elitist, so I don't believe like I always have tried to treat new comics with respect.
Yeah.
Like I don't try and do a hierarchy thing. But he is not a stand-up comic, which would be fine. Anybody should try it.
Sure.
But he starts to do it, and then he gets into this whole. He's the greatest stand-up comic of all time, and he creates these venues where it's just an echo chamber of people cheering him on. There was nothing even remotely like stand-up about that show. It was just like, with his.
It's a bad TED Talk.
It was a bad TED Talk. So.
And now I'm never going to be able to interview him.
Oh, you wouldn't want to. You really wouldn't want to. But I do miss the old office.
Yeah. Well, despite all of this wonderful chatter, I actually want to focus on you.
Why not?
Yeah, right?
Time to focus on me.
I know. And I like to ask the same question of my guests.
That's fine.
Beginning and end. So first off, to start off, my icebreaker, one word to describe your past.
That's a tough one. One word is up and down.
Of course.
Mixed, ambivalent. Yeah, that's a rough one because the past is a whole kettle of the past.
It's fascinating with the interviews that I've done. People really get tripped up by.
I know, because they think,
It to, oh man, and then their whole life I imagine their life flashes.
I think people just start to wonder, like, what it brings them to the brink of self-exploration.
Yeah. Because this is a fan interviewing a comic podcast, I want to know what your first or earliest comedic memory is.
I have two comedic memories. I have a comedic memory of me being funny in a car at like 5 years old, and I mispronounced a billboard, and the whole family laughed, and I was like, oh, that felt pretty good,
Yeah.
My first earliest memories of, I think the first things I watched though were like, do you say memories of comedy?
Comedic memory.
Oh yeah,
it's very open-ended.
Probably. I mean, I watched Jackie Gleason. I watched Ed Sullivan, but I'm not young, but I'm too young to remember the acts on Ed Sullivan.
Sure.
And I was really from an early age. I loved like sitcoms, like Mary Tyler Moore, and I loved Dick Van Dyke, and so I guess that would be my early. I didn't like the Three Stooges, so I never watched four comedies.
Okay, that's an interesting thing for you to point out, because I saw your show last night opening for Tig.
Right.
And
how was Tig? I had to leave.
Yeah, she was fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
She stopped trash talking you when she
Well, no, she knew I left. Yeah. Oh, did she make one more reference to me and I was gone?
She might have, but
I had to go do the other show.
One of the best pictures, I happened to be in one of the front side rows. One of the best pictures that I have that I've already posted is of her chasing me around the stage.
She comes out to me last night. She goes, maybe I should chase you around the stage. She's so funny.
Funniest thing.
I think she's my favorite person. I can't think of a better person or funnier person than her.
Yeah. It's too bad she only did the one performance, because it was.
Oh, she's in for one night and left.
I think so. Yeah.
She's unbelievable.
Yeah.
She is I would like to have her approach to my career. Yeah, maybe I'll do one. It's like she's kind of the confidence that I've always lacked.
And that's very much your persona on stage. Talking to you here, I don't get that sense that you're really, lacking in confidence.
Well, I'm not lacking in confidence right now, but I'm aware, because I'm in therapy finally. That's what my whole family said, finally. I'm aware of when I feel uncomfortable. So I almost always feel uncomfortable, and I never thought this until I had therapy, because I always think I have to perform. You know what I mean? So it's like, and there's nothing worse than a comic when they're on all the time, but I tend to be good at being on in a hopefully funny way, but it still gets exhausting, and so I'm always thinking, what are people thinking of me? Like, I got a drink before, And I mean, I was going to get a coffee, and I used to be a bartender, so the bartender didn't even like acknowledge that I was there, and I kind of got mad about it. But then I was worried, like what what people would think about me getting mad. So, and then because there's a part of me that's like, you have to be a nice person, which my parents drilled into me, and a lot of it's good. I'm not I'm nice to people, but it's exhausting to try to make people like you all the time, especially since I have that other side where I'm constantly saying negative things about Ricky Gervais.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of want to say these bad things and still be loved.
Yeah. Well, this podcast will get 20 listens, so you can.
That's what I was hoping. That's the only reason why I did it.
I think that's why Bruce. And thank you to Bruce, by the way.
Bruce Smith, we're talking
Smith,
about.
Omnipop.
He's not your
guy.
He's not your father's Bruce Smith. I don't know what that means.
But yeah, so feel free. This can be the state of Austin, very niche comedy industry if you want it to.
I'll do it. Yeah.
I actually want to close the loop on my little Three
Sure.
Stooges observation, because you seem so gregarious and just dramatic and very Three Stooges. Epic is the word that I'm.
No, I don't think so, because Three Stooges was like, it's like they're hitting each other. I don't like the hitting and the. I never loved that as a kid.
Yeah, yeah.
I used to do a joke. I said I found out why women don't like the Three Stooges. They're not funny. That's why. But I actually accept, like I'm Drew Friedman, who's a great illustrator and writer. He grew up loving the Stooges, so I get how people did love them as kids.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me because there was a certain craziness about it.
Yeah.
So the anarchy part fits, but I'm more stream of consciousness, anarchistic.
Can I ask, when you are doing your shows, is it really stream of consciousness? That's like the worst question for somebody who's a
No, that's
fan.
a good question. It's like
Because they're just so I lay the groundwork.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
There are people that make the observations that the mark of a great comic is somebody that makes it look like it's purely stream of consciousness, but they have written it down to the last.
Yeah. Now
detail.
I would say if I knew that a comic was framing his material, because I actually make fun of comics in my act who are like use tricks like oh here's another bit I've been doing for 30 years I'm going to make sound like it's off the top of my head, so it's like what did you ask me? I have a problem. I have two problems. I have AD. I'm talking about this on stage. I have ADHD, and I have OCD, and I'm on Prozac, which has been great. I recommend everybody, please, people. But my short-term memory, and I smoke pot. Not today. Not today.
That's a new thing, right? I mean, I was.
I've spent. I had to hide my receipts from my wife because I've been spending about $200 a week on legal pot.
Well, the funny thing is, Andy, I'm very. I will lose track of things, but
you
at some
haven't
point,
though. I didn't think you.
Yeah,
you remember?
I will eventually stream it
That's
all
good.
together.
That's a good skill for an interviewer.
So the question was, are you really that stream of consciousness when you're on stage?
Now I remember. Yeah. Well, I guess I wanted to address the thing you said before. I'm not a fan of when they try and make it look right, but I think also people could get not fooled, but they don't think of it as being written. When someone's really good, like Maria Bamford, she might do both, but she's so comfortable that it's just she's able to convey her voice. And so here's the way it is on stage. I actually had like a panic attack, not real panic attack, but I left my comedy in LA. I have my comedy all written on index cards, and I go over them like crazy before the show. So I had to introduce people last night at my own show, and he gave me a card with the intro on it, and now I have my index cards back. But what I try to do is I do everything from alphabetically thinking of the bits I want to do in my head, so I don't forget. Try to stay in the moment of what's happening. I'm working on a current amount of bits, but then when I get on stage, I really don't know what I'm going to do, and it is stream of consciousness in terms of how I put it together, and any asides I have, are definitely going to be just in the moment. But it's a difficult thing because I have memory problems, and I actually went for a long time where I wouldn't take any notes at all on stage because I just was trying to see if I could do it.
Yeah.
But now, I'm thinking, I see, it's different now. It used to be, they would say oh, he doesn't have his stuff memorized, but now people know that comedy is not memorized. So.
Yeah. At what point sounds like you may have started your comedy career where you did memorize things and then you stopped and now you're back, but a little bit.
Well, I'd say it's this. It's were you at the TIG show?
Yes.
Okay, did you know I had notes on the napkin, or you thought it was a napkin?
Yeah, I thought it was a napkin.
Yeah, see, everybody, friends of mine, comics, always have something.
Yeah.
Not always, but they kind of disguise it a little bit.
Yeah.
My thing is, I don't kind of want to disguise it anymore, but I'm glad you didn't know they were notes, and I didn't really look at them. They were just comfort there. When you first start, you couldn't even. When I first started, they wouldn't even be thinking about because I'm part of the alternative movement where that's what we did. We brought up our notebooks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But when I first started, I wouldn't have known. I would have known you couldn't do that, and so I would have had to have memorized it. But I've always had memorizing problems because I don't like an act that goes linearly, and that's constructed together where this bit goes to that bit. When I say I don't like it, also I can't write it that way, so it's convenient that I don't like it. But I sometimes won't even see the most obvious connections between two jokes because I'm not used to doing it that way, into themes and things, and like a through line to it. So
So now I want to chase down another thing because you've got an acting career.
Hey, thanks for saying it. I didn't ask you to say it, but it works.
I do my research, Andy. You have to memorize things. You're telling me you have a memory problem.
I have a problem when I act too. Here's what I'm learning is I don't think it's Alzheimer's. Thank you. I don't think it's a dementia. I don't think it's anything like that. I think it's nervousness. So when I get on, I had to act. I'm on this show called I'm Dying Up Here, which is on Showtime, and I'm playing an agent, and I had to be in a steam room. I'm calling someone from a steam room, so I'm not naked, but I got a towel over me, and it's all these. My call was at 3 p.m, but sometimes they don't know what they're. Sometimes they just can't shoot it the way that they planned it. So I didn't end up shooting until midnight. So that got me more nervous of these lines I'd already memorized. So then when I get into the room and I'm worried because it's I don't like people seeing my. I know the ladies love it, but my upper body should not be exposed. And so I'm worried about that, and I'm worried about if people can see that. Can they see? For example, if you're a man and you're getting a massage, you don't want people to say that they admire my breasts, right? That's not the kind of compliment you're going for.
I don't know.
You never think of these.
Maybe. No,
you never think of this when you're younger, though. I'm telling you, it's only when men get to be my age and they look down and they go, "This can't be God's plan." Or I guess it is God's plan. So what happened when I act is, because I have this the attention deficit thing, I kind of psych myself out from remembering my lines. But then sometimes I'll get in a nice groove with them, and then on the set that last time, I was the first couple of takes were really I couldn't remember anything, and then once I relaxed, I was able to remember it. But I don't have a photographic memory, so
you have to work hard at it.
Well, it's no matter how hard I work at it, it seems like if it's a long scene, you almost have to start doing it to get it down because it's you may have memorized it 4 hours ago, now it's nothing. But now some people have like I said, some people have no problems with that.
Yeah. I feel like I've jumped way ahead by talking about your acting career.
See, because
when
you're
you
doing
were-
stream of consciousness.
Yeah, exactly. But you presumably you started as a comic.
Well, that
Or-
would be an incorrect presumption.
Okay.
I like that. I like that you use presume, and I like that I one-upped you with it.
Yeah,
I don't really.
you know.
I don't think presumption is a one-up so much.
Putting it on my bio, I was one-upped by Andy Kindler.
I started as a musician. I was a
Oh, yes,
musician.
I knew this.
Yeah, I was a musician in college, and I was
Yes.
in bands, and I stumbled into comedy because a friend of mine who I was working with at a stereo store, he wanted to try it, so he asked me if I would try it, and then I fell in love with it. So, but you were saying presumably.
Yes, presumably, when you made a shift, because you did
Right.
do comedy first, what was it like for you to go into acting?
Oh, well, here's the thing is that since I've been a little kid, or like summer camp, I did plays in summer camp. I was we had a thing in high school called Sing. Nobody knows what it is. Well, some people
that a
know what it
movie?
is. It's regional. So it's like the junior class puts on a show, the senior class puts on a show.
Okay.
And so, and when I was in summer camp as a kid, I was in every single, I played Elwood P. Dowd and Harvey and all that. So I really did a lot of theater just as a kid. And then
Okay.
in college, I did a lot of theater because it was upstate New York at this school called Binghamton, and it was just a great experience.
Yeah.
But I never have had the confidence that I acting, and that is because through therapy I realized that I'm so concerned with if I'm good enough sometimes. And I'm, like, am I good enough? Am I good enough? Do they like my acting? And that doesn't normally happen with stand-up because I'm very comfortable with myself with stand-up. But acting is still, even though I've done a fair amount of it, still kind of new for me. So that actually has made me make a breakthrough with acting, auditions. Because really, for acting, it's just to get out of your own way. The more you think about, like, I try to turn everything now into the grist for the mill. So if I'm nervous as I'm acting, I try to put that into the character, But I always think, like, when you see these people who are amazing actors, that they're always amazing actors. But when you hear a lot of these people want to close sets, I think De Niro and like if you ever see De Niro talking a regular read off a teleprompter, it's like he's obviously shy or something like that. So. It's just comedy was easier for me to progress in because I wasn't mean to myself. That's my whole problem, is I've been mean to myself. And not my whole problem, but
That's a fairly common trait of comics.
I think so, probably. Yeah. I mean, if you tried to make a profile of a comic, I think you'd find many things that would fit into the profile, and then you'd find some things that don't, because some comics are just extremely happy.
Yeah.
Like
They exist.
their private life is happy and they're hilarious.
Yeah.
So it just depends on what your thing is.
So we're going to go back again.
You can do whatever you want.
I know.
To me, I can't sense what the direction it's in. Is
Is that a good thing? I mean,
Well, it's not. I'll never, to the day I die, I'll never be I'm hoping I don't die, but I'm never going to be one of these beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah.
Like if I try and write a script, I just don't think that way.
Yeah.
So I don't think that way with stand-up either.
That's a skill that I need to work on because I'm a mathematician. So
Are you
everything
really?
has to be linear, and yeah, she knows.
Are you a mathematician?
No.
I love that you're a mathematician. Now, if a man like me wanted to start back with math again,
Oh, just don't.
can I stay away from cosines? Can I just lock it down with geometry?
Nobody uses calculus for anything. It's
Is that true?
It's geometry and algebra is everything.
Oh,
you
okay.
need.
Well, I am mixing up algebra now because I think algebra I'm not good at either. How about algorithms?
It's computer science.
I pride myself on being good with words.
Yes, you are.
And I just said
You
that
are.
to make you say
Right.
that. But I have no idea what a past participle is. I have no idea what a subject of a sentence is. I know when it's wrong,
Yeah.
like the predicate. What is a predicate?
I'm a mathematician.
Oh, you're a mathematician.
Andy.
That's right.
Jeez. That's exactly how I get out of every
That's
argument.
why you can't come up with a unified field theory because of your, you know what it is, but you can't. You know what it is as an
Can't
equation.
articulate it. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm fascinated by math because math, I think, is a really. I believe in a spiritual universe, which many people don't believe in. But when they're, a lot of times in physics, they're going, I know how to explain this math-wise, but I don't know how to explain this people-wise. But math is behind so much stuff that I hope to take a course.
Yeah. Biggest pet peeve is when people tell me, "Oh, I don't need to do math at all." I'm like, "Well, then how do you leave a tip at a restaurant?"
Right. And not only do you say that, but I feel lucky that I really was good at dividing things, or 8 times 6, 7 times 9, because I can figure out tips so fast.
Yeah.
And what I do, I double the amount and move the decimal point over.
Hell yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Is that how you get 20%?
That's
Yeah.
pretty much my.
Except people
my
go,
tactic.
you don't have to do it. It's pre-tax. Don't hang out with those people. Pre-tax.
Yeah.
Thank you for not tipping me on the tax. A lot of people will say that. I admire that you separated the tax from the service. But I'm pretty good. You know what else I can do? I can add up a lot of numbers in a row pretty good.
Yeah.
So I'm practically that guy who has autism who can do pi. I'm practically like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Are you
He does pi up to.
Yeah, saying the decimals. There's a serious competition for people who can
Do that.
say
He
the
also
number.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it's an infinite number, right?
Right.
But he went to Reykjavik. Is that Iceland?
Yeah, Reykjavik.
Reykjavik. He learned to speak. It's supposed to be the hardest language in the world, or one of the hardest languages in the world. He learned to speak it in 1 week. This guy. I want his skill,
Yeah.
but I want my warm personality.
Yeah. I think you're on your way.
Yeah.
Andy. I think you can.
Well, now that you told me that I could be a math whiz without, what was it? That I don't need
Calculus,
calculus.
without
Is calculus dead?
No, not
Okay.
at all. But I just don't think in the practical world you really need.
But scientists mostly use.
I think it's statistics.
Ah.
So that's a different field than geometry and
Yeah.
algebra. But day to day.
But you know what I love the way we've summed up in life. Where we go. I remember years ago they go, well, how do you do? How's it? We go, oh, it's all done by computers. Oh, okay. Well, now we understand. It's like people don't really know what they're saying, or they go, it's all zeros and ones.
Yeah.
I really don't. I know what that means, but I don't know how you get from there to a screensaver. You know what I'm saying? I think I kind of do because my wife's a photographer, so she explains things to me sometimes with the zeros and ones.
Can I say one of the things
Say
that
whatever you
I
wanna
really
say.
like about your podcast, and actually, it happened in the show yesterday, but you bring up your wife
Yes.
every single time, and I just find that really charming, and it's
Well, that's because I'm not a player. You know what I mean? Like the comics on stage used to, like in the 80s, they go, yeah, hotels are crazy. I'm staying in room 1275 of the Westin.
But it's almost like she's part of your act.
Yes,
Your-
and she's also
yeah.
very funny, and she also, she also corrects my act because I have a tendency in life to think I've given the preface, I've given the background to something I'm saying, and I haven't. So she's like saying, you never said this in the joke, so that they can't possibly know.
Yeah.
And normally, I just blame the audience and think, what could I have done wrong? I'm perfect.
Right.
Yeah, but I love my wife,
Yeah.
and yes, it is. As I've been going through more therapy, I've been talking about her more. But I check everything out. I say everything I say on stage about her. I check it out first
Oh, nice.
because, and I'm that way with my I don't. If I wrote a book about my parents like, and I really wanted to get into it, I could cause them great shit. Not really, but I could cause them. I mean, it's like I don't like. Maybe when my dad passed away, but just like I just don't like this idea where I'm so personal that I can't get that personal where it affects my family, kind of. Although I can say, horrible things about Alan Dershowitz.
Yeah.
And I can say more fun things about my mother. Mm-hmm. But the therapy has brought up a lot of things for me, which I did not realize happened because I blocked everything out. You don't remember things from your childhood. Do you remember a lot of things?
Some things.
Yeah.
There's vivid memories that you hang on to, and some are good, some are not good.
So the therapy and the Prozac. It sounds like I'm selling it. I did sign an endorsement deal with Prozac. and Red Bull, interestingly enough. But
if you see Andy on stage, you'll know why he's...
But no, it brings up these things, and you really... I thought that I was... when you're Jewish, everyone assumes you've been in therapy,
Really?
And like
I'm a big fan of therapy.
Obsessive compulsive disorder, right? Yeah. I was saying last night on stage, sounds like a delightful Jewish disease. It needs a more extreme name.
Yeah. One of the things that I enjoyed hearing recently is how you got started doing the state of the industry at the Just for Laughs. It didn't start off that way. You were doing something else at the festival, and then somebody asked you, "Oh, can you just do this thing?" And it became the state of the industry. And maybe give background for anybody who doesn't know what this is.
Well, I've been going to the Montreal Just for Laughs festival since 1993. So I went in 93, and they didn't usually bring comics back unless they're were really famous. So they didn't bring me back in 94, but they brought me back in 95, and I did this an autobiographical thing. And then I did another thing where I demonstrated hack comedy, because I'd written an article for National Lampoon called the Hack Comics Handbook, which is still on my website if anybody wants to see it. So Bruce Hills, I did a demonstration up there with Patton Oswalt and all these comics, how to be a hack comic.
Yeah. And
it was really fun. And then the Bruce Hills, who's the head of the festival, said, maybe we should come back the next year and do another type speech. But as my manager came up with the name state of the industry, and I mean, it really is weird. I had no idea it would go on. How many years is it? 30 years?
Yeah.
And I can retire just on my state of the industry money.
And it's an hour-long
It's like an hour long. It's in the hotel where the festival is. And the idea is to basically criticize what I don't like in a funny way. Or get very angry, depending on the topic.
Can you think of a year or an instance where you were really angry about comedy?
I was always angry about, one of the things in the first speech was I offered $1 million for footage of Whoopi Goldberg being funny. But I would always be angrier at the way the system was set up, maybe. And, but going after specific comics became a thing that I added on that I always kind of did, but was nervous to do it. Because it's like an unwritten rule, you can... Yeah. It's not really a rule, but it's you can do Michael Jackson jokes for days, but then don't bring up another comic, or... I happen to like Michael Jackson, and...
So how did you get past that?
I don't know why I said that. Happen to like Michael Jackson?
How did you get past that, where you were, it's the unspoken rule of not going after colleagues?
Well, because I'm compelled to get the stuff out of my head, and I used to think things were so black and white, I didn't realize I'm getting better at knowing there's gray areas of life. So if I'm going to go make fun of somebody, I have to be willing to accept that they're not going to like it. I can't have it both ways. Yeah. I do try to keep my targets high, and I try to keep the speech like a roast more than a really mean thing, but sometimes I'm very angry.
Yeah. Have you had somebody come to you after and say, that crossed the line?
Well, I was never a big fan of Adam Carolla. So I made fun of him and then he talked about it on his show. And when I made fun of Opie and Anthony, they found out about it and that kind of thing. But
Has anybody ever come to
I
you
know.
after and say, that was, you crossed the line with me? But
I think, yeah. But, well, like when I've made fun of different people, and then like an agent will say, oh, they want to represent me because of it, you know. But and I prefer to think, I think we're good. I prefer to. Oh, you want more water?
she knows what I.
I prefer to think. That. What was I doing? Say it again. One more time. You just edit all this stuff out, or leave it in. It could be. No. Please leave
I don't
it in.
edit. No. It's too hard to do.
That's true. You know who does edit?
Yeah, who-
Josh edits my
I
podcast.
was going to say,
Yeah.
how do you get a gig where somebody else is editing your?
Well, he's in the
stuff?
podcast.
Well, yeah.
And
So
he's
you
editing.
don't want to edit this for me?
No, I can't stand it. I can't, and I can't believe he does the work.
Yeah.
But it's different because it's a not a comedy podcast per se,
Yeah.
but he will edit out. You know, he can edit it for laughs.
Yeah. Okay, so third time's a charm, Andy.
Yeah.
Has anybody come to you saying that you have crossed the line?
Okay, so yeah, that agent who didn't hire me, and then when I used to make fun of Louis C.K., I know that really bothered him, and I was making fun, as I say in my act, I was making fun of him before it was
Yeah.
a reason to.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but Louis C.K. would be somebody who I actually do think, regardless of the stuff that he ended up getting in trouble for, I do think that he's generally kind of a manipulative kind of person who wanted to be powerful in a way and kind of could intimidate you. So
Yeah.
I actually did get intimidated by him in a way because he came backstage to a show once right after I gave the speech. I think the bottom line is I can't stand confrontation, and so the interactions haven't been face to face, but like Opie and Anthony or Corolla would get angry at me. My bottom line is I'm always worried about getting beaten up. So I figure.
But you never have.
No, I've actually never been in a fist fight.
Yeah.
Because I was always very short, so I'd use my mouth to get out of it if I could. So, no one's killed me yet.
Yeah. The idea that I'm thinking about is the agent who didn't want to represent you or who
Right.
fired you. Do they really know you? Because if you were doing this state of the industry and this was the thing that you did, and you're still picking up work left and right, you can't be that much of an asshole.
Well, I think in this case, sometimes things are a convenient excuse. So I don't think he was going to hire me because, because some of the big agencies are like, what are you going to do for us? They want to make a lot of money or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
they use it as an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I think.
Yeah.
If that guy really thought he could make money on me, he probably would have signed me regardless. But because I'm not like a dream, like a promoter's dream. If you first seen me, because I'm not trying to glad hand the crowd or whatever, like that kind of thing. But I'm never going to be a people pleaser kind of comic,
I mean,
I think that's wrong.
crowd
because you
pleaser, not people pleaser. Yeah.
Your crowd last night was pretty
Well,
pleased.
that's the thing. My wife last night was saying she was amazed at the I cannot remember a reaction that was that good. So I thought maybe it was a trick. But
If it hasn't been said, this was at the Paramount Theater,
Paramount
which is a
Theater.
gorgeous, large venue.
Yeah, it's nice.
I'm stunned that you say that you've never gotten such a reaction. Positive reaction, by the way.
Here's the thing. It's like, do you hear the applause that Tig got before she even came out? It's like
when you go from your career being everybody's coming to see you, there is you almost can't get that kind of reaction until you have everybody come see you.
Yeah.
You know, I've had people come see me in clubs. I've done my own tours and stuff, but for some reason it seemed to go, you know, I hope this doesn't sound like I'm an idiot, but it did seem to be like louder than normal. Let's say louder than normal. But when I first started comedy, I didn't do well at all because I'm doing like what's considered inside things, and I never really had a constructed act like people would be used to in the 80s and 90s.
Is it the phrase you were playing to the back of the room?
Yeah, now I was always playing to the back of the room, and I think that's all my people I love, like Lenny Bruce, they were always playing the back room. And playing the back of the room is basically that you're doing a certain amount of material that comics or the band are going to like because it's material about show business, or it's it's like if I'm making fun of the form. And in general, people like in Hollywood get nervous, like, oh, well, do people know about that? You know, do they know that? So it's just one of those things where I have to get used to now doing better. It's weird. I'm I'm not used to it, and I used to do so much more self-deprecating material, which is hard to do sometimes if you're doing well.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. So you were doing stand-up. You're coming back every year, just for laughs. You are a perennial favorite of Moon Tower. Have you been doing Moon Tower every
year? I think I'm the only comic who's done it every year.
Yeah. First line of my introduction about you is you're the voice of Mort on Bob's Burgers.
Right.
I was surprised because what I like to do when I know I've got a guest coming up, that I don't get to see at the open mics here in Austin, I'll Google their name and podcast. I was surprised. How do you have time? How do you juggle your time? You've got podcasts, TV. You've got your particular show,
right,
as well.
How do I have time to what?
To do all of these things.
Oh, well, I see. I don't think of myself as... that's so weird. It's so funny because I think of myself as being completely unproductive, but this is also stuff I'm going through on therapy. The thing that I'm going through with therapy is the only thing that I need to change... Not the only thing, but I need to not motivate myself with anger at myself because it just doesn't work. So what happens is since I clearly have ADD, which goes along a lot with OCD, it just happens to go together. I got, my dad passed away in January of 2015, and I became paralyzed. I couldn't do anything. I could barely write the speech. So it's more like I love doing comedy, so I'll put myself in anything where I'm doing comedy. So like those opportunities are just there. But a lot of times, like 2 years later, my taxes, but they owed me money. There's a lot of stuff that I'm working out that is a function of, part of it's OCD when you check your car, check your door. That does something. But there's also, I have a fear of leaving the house sometimes. Not like agoraphobia, but close to it. So I actually feel like I do a lot of things, but none of them, I used to think I had to have a Christian work ethic type of thing, even though I'm Jewish. But it's like, I kept thinking, you have to be a person who wakes up in the morning and writes 3 hours. And as you get older, you get to be more comfortable with what your strengths and weaknesses are. It's like, it'd be nice to have a book, and maybe I will write a book, but if I'm just telling myself you have to write a book, it may not be the right thing for me. And so I'm trying to do things more organically, and also my wife has similar problems to me, like OCD, not completely, but similar. So our goal is to have everything removed off of every surface in the house so we can think.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, we're not hoarders.
Yeah.
But in like 2 days, the desk gets crazy and.
Yeah. Can I share a personal story?
Sure.
Because I just went through like a really rigorous spring cleaning, and I'll tell you.
Literal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, where I said I have too much junk. I'm same thing. I'm not hoarder level, but things that would just annoy me about when I want to dust. I have to move all this stuff. and I purged so much from my kitchen countertops and my bathroom countertops, and I couldn't believe how therapeutic and great it felt. Now when I walk into the kitchen, now when I walk into the bathroom, it's like, clean surface. Oh my God, let's go.
It works.
It's crazy.
It works because, you know, in my life, when I started comedy, I
Would save every article. Like if I was in a TV guide, I'd buy 20 of them. So it really comes home to hit you in the face when you realize you're spending like $300 a month on a storage unit.
Yeah.
You know, we're spending $300, and a lot of that storage unit is filled with TV guides. So I am very conscious now of trying to make the decision not to keep things. You know, especially if it's not personal.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
But I do that all the time. I'll have these things like, and I'll look back 6 months later. You stop seeing them after a while, but they do clog the mind up.
Yeah, yeah. One thing I want to put out there is how nice, wonderful it is that you're so open about the therapy, because there are a lot of comics who self-admittedly say, "Oh, I messed up in the head," but I've never had somebody that I talk to who's so forthcoming about it.
I appreciate that, but you know, there's an up and down side to that. Because I tend to overshare. You know what I mean? It's like I never realized this about myself.
Yeah.
But I've had to be careful now. Like, if I went in an audition and said, I got to hold the script while I'm doing the audition because I have OCD and I can't keep them. They don't want to hear that. Not everybody wants to hear about your OCD. And I'm not like saying you have to make rules, but sometimes I am trying to become a little bit more reserved, but not for any reasons why I'm scared to say things, just because but it is true that I do feel like I'm pretty open. And I also feel like, you ever see my dinner with, I'm sure you have, my dinner with Andre? To me, that was so affected me so much, because the idea of just like two people sitting down and relating and talking about world issues, that's how I kind of see life. So it's like I always am thinking about, you know, do you believe in God? Do I believe in God? You know, all these things that I do tend to think on those levels.
Well, and then there's the element of the audience that's likely to listen to this. They're going to know who you are. They're going to think, oh my gosh, Andy's role model. And hey, I know I've got issues.
Right.
You're giving them permission to get help.
I think that is absolutely true. When you learn that there are other people out there who have the same problems, whatever it is really, I mean, when I looked in the OCD, I read a book called Delivered from Distraction, and it's all about ADD. And when you look at the things in there and you start to see the traits that all the people who have this have, you go, oh my God, it makes sense to you, you know?
Right.
And I'm still in that mode where I'm trying to remember what happened when I was a kid. And I blocked a lot of things out not because they were like awful traumas, but because that was my attitude then, was don't pay, you know, like I was the youngest, stay out of trouble. But then when you get older, you realize you have to start to bring these things out of yourself.
It's funny. There's a question that I will sometimes pull out of the hat that says, and I think this entire conversation has been you addressing some of this question. So I'm going to ask the opposite question. So my question is there something about performance that scares you? And I think I think there's a lot that you've shared today that.
You know, it's so interesting because it's like, that is the whole crux of the issue, is when you get into your own head and you can't get out of your head. You know, that's why the stage has always been an opportunity for me to make breakthroughs. Like I made a tremendous breakthrough a few years ago, and what I thought I was being very stream of consciousness, but I realized that I was having uncomfortable thoughts that I wasn't saying, like whatever it would be, like, oh, I can't believe you're not laughing at the half-baked premise I came up with 3 hours ago.
So the more I said, I really didn't give myself permission to say anything, then it more and more people who relate to that, I think really, I like to hear that in other people, that they're similar to me that way,
What do you love about performing?
I love, first of all, I would say it's the greatest feeling, I can't think of any creative thing that's better than being on stage when I'm really enjoying it. I love it.
Yeah.
But the thing about, there's like I was listening to this podcast, a philosophy podcast, and they're talking about Buddhism. And Buddhism, it's not that you don't get attached at all, but it's that you let it go. So that's what I'm kind of trying to do, is kind of have more of a grist for the mill feel to things, and trying to find my way. I forgot again. What was it?
What do you love about performing?
Oh, okay. So it's unbelievable that I forget. I lose the thread. No, what I love about performing is when it feels great. But the Buddhist part is if you get attached to having a great crowd reaction every time you're on stage, and worse than that with a lot of comics who get attached to wanting the audience to love them. See, I want the audience to love me, but I don't want to be a clown for them. I want them to love me for my own, for what I'm doing on my own terms. So the thing about stand-up is that, or anything that you love, it's not going to be great every night.
Yeah.
It's not going, and I'm also at the point where if I don't want to go out, I won't go out. But I have no boredom with it. It's like I keep learning things from it. It is the most natural thing to me. It is the most fun I can imagine having in a creative pursuit.
Yeah.
So I do love. And the difference between, say, someone my age and other comics I've met before who are my age is like, I may be obsessed with getting older just because I'm joke about everything, but I don't believe that I'm out of touch or it's too late, because I think that's one of the things that's there's a great article in the New Yorker this week about
I won't be able to help you. I don't read the New Yorker. I'm sorry.
what was the general topic? This is going to be. They're going to have me committed after this.
We won't tell us all.
Right. I forgot. I lost the thread there.
You said something that I wanted to follow up on, because I would not observe you as being out of touch. I mean, geez, you're on Twitter all the time.
Right. No, but that's the thing. I'm not out of touch like that. Yeah. But a lot of here's what I was going to say. A lot of these comics who get bitter, not bitter like I am as a joke, or to get anger out, but they start to lose their love for stand-up. And the reason why they do is because it has to be a current thing that you love. And that's what the article in the New Yorker was about there's one part where he goes that we're taught to believe if we do everything, you follow your dreams and good things will happen to you. That's not the proper lesson.
Yeah.
You're doing it because you love doing it. And the truth is, you can never know exactly what's going to happen.
Right.
So I would be sad now if I was sick or ailing, but I don't think like I thought when I was younger, I have to be in a movie, I have to have a sitcom. And I also don't believe, well, it's too late for those things to happen, because all of those things are incorrect judgments that we have about life. Is that all of these expectations that we have going, and if anybody gets the New Yorker, this guy's a really great, his name is Greenberg, Gary Greenberg, and he's just a really great analyzing the way we do things, and so that's why people aren't happy, is what I've noticed. Like, people are always comparing their lives to what it was before, or it's too late, or all those things, and all of those things are myths. Or if I had had a sitcom, I would have had a better life. But now, and they ignore all the lessons of all the rich, fabulously rich people who didn't make them happy. I mean, the lessons are out there, but it's just natural for humans to want more and more and more. You know, so I never get bored. To say I never get bored doing stand-up is not correct, because I do get bored sometimes. That's part of it. So if my expectation is I love stand-up and I'm going to keep doing it as long as every night it's pure joy, that's another. So and that's the Buddhist part of like, let it go. You just let it go. You just don't get involved that much in the results.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
People take that, misunderstand Buddhism. I only understand it because I listen to this podcast, but people think it means nothing is real. You know, everything is equally unreal. But that's not what it is. It's like everything is equally happening.
Yeah.
You
Being
know?
present, being mindful,
Yes.
that whole concept. Do you want to tell the name of this philosophy podcast that you've?
Oh, okay. If you, this is a really great thing. It's called Philosophy Bites.
Okay.
And it's with Nigel Warburton and Dave Edmonds, not the musician. And I just found it online, and I didn't even know what philosophy was, and even now I still don't quite know what it is. But they have all of these different. It's the most fascinating field, and I'm just in love with it.
Yeah.
You know, like they had a philosophy of what you should do with monuments. How you should have monuments up, and it's like a way of life. I never, I knew what I knew there was a field, but I really feel like this whole thing of how science has, of course, science is great, but how it's overwhelmed. This whole thing, I don't know exactly how it happened, but this whole thing, like either you believe in God or you don't, or you're a group of people say you're an idiot to believe in God, and because where's the proof? Ignores this whole spiritual side of the universe. And I wasn't raised that way. I was raised with like Ken Kesey and the LSD times and the 60s. We were all like searching and looking for spirituality. And now I think there's people are in their heads and they don't know what spirituality is, and they just say come and get me in spirituality. So I think it's but the kids today, the young kids like you, the 18-year-olds, the young kids today, I'm very excited. They're not. I thought it would get worse and worse and worse, where they would just be so cynical, not believe in anything. Many of them are spiritual. They're finding their own ways to be spiritual. They're not the second event. I can't think of one Christian thing. The second Baptist, Protestant.
I'm the wrong person to ask for that list.
Were you raised Christian?
No, not really.
Were you raised non-denominationally?
I was, yeah.
But you see, that's the thing. I love my father. He's my hero. He's the funniest person in the world. But I had an unhealthy relationship with him because he was extremely, just in this one area, he was extremely smart. Smarter than me, for example. And he was agnostic, leaning towards atheism. And I had to realize that when I'm getting mad at these people like the new atheists online who trash Islam and everything, I have to realize that I'm getting even more upset with it because I'm still playing out this relationship with my father where I don't believe that my point of view is valid because he knows more than me about it. And now, and that's also because you want everyone to love you while having a spiritual, believing in spiritual. And I'm starting to get better, and I hope by the time I'm 80, 85, 90, that I'll be able to be even more accepting of these things and not so angry about what I hate, because if it's based in like Gervais getting under my skin, I don't want that. Like my therapist said to me once, like that this Sam Harris. I can't stand him. But anyway, I've been in a long argument with him, and he said something to me like he's defaming me, and I said to my therapist, it made me so mad. And he goes, he got you then. He knew that was going to make you mad. So that's the thing I'm trying to learn is, in the era of Trump, where things can look bleak in a way, the philosophy part of it is you can't live your life worried that you're going to die every second.
and you can have a way of enjoying things as they are, and also being open to things.
So I have a challenge for you, Andy.
Sure.
You have been coming to Moon Tower every single year, and maybe you create a new show where you are the yogi to the Moon Tower audience, because I mean, this has been 20 minutes on philosophy, and I've been riveted. I don't think I've said more than 5 words.
Well, let me tell you something. Though, any fans of your podcast, I know that I get information wrong. So, you know what I mean? It's like, or I get confused. Well, it's like, like what that psychologist in the New Yorker was saying, it hit me like a bolt of lightning that people have been taught this thing incorrectly. Well, if you just see, I think it's wrong that people don't follow their dreams. I think you should follow your dreams. I always encourage everybody. I want to be a stand-up, but I'm scared. You have to try it. You have to try it, and you have to allow yourself to do it. But it's getting so interested in the results of it. Right. That's where, it's like, if you want to do stand-up, enjoy it. If you want to do stand-up because you are, even though it's natural, we all want to be famous. We all want all of these things. But at some point, and age is good for this too, you just, as you get older, you have less of that yearning for stuff that's really to validate yourself. So I think I'm going to come back as, I used to do a character called Baba Andaji. Because I used to, and it was like, the leaf in the stream does not know it has an appointment. We are like the leaves in the stream. It's kind of a Krishnamurti type of thing.
Yeah, I can see it. We are coming up on our wrapping up point here. It's been a joy. Way more than I could have ever hoped and dreamed for.
Well, now here's the thing. It's just a thing into why life is hard, and how when you start to understand what's going on and become an adult, it's like when I was told about the podcast, it's like sometimes I overbook things, and then I get to Austin and I get to enjoy anything, and then sometimes they go, it's 20 minutes to an hour, and then I've had an hour where it's been terrible. But if it's an hour that you're enjoying, it's the greatest. So it's like.
So which one is?
This was great. This was great. No, because the thing is, I want to be open to everything. But I have done an interview where you go into town, and it's basically a kid who has a tape recorder. You know what I mean? It's like they don't really even know what they're doing. And then you sometimes have to value your time because you can't do everything.
Right.
But I'm glad that I did this.
Yeah. No, many thanks to Bruce and your schedule being open for us. And
yes.
We are going.
The paparazzi has not bothered us.
Yeah, we've had the bodyguards keeping those.
Please, people, allow me. I come to Austin because people allow me to be myself.
Yeah.
The mobbing, the constant mobbing.
It's been a great distraction, I have to admit. One word to describe your future.
Wow, that's a good one. One word to adventurous. I don't know if that's the right. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the future. I used to think I was scared of death. Well, we're all scared of death. Yeah. But I've relayed this story to everybody who will listen. When I was 6 years old, I was in bed, and I thought I was dying because I had a high fever. And interestingly enough, my mother was in her own world and didn't hear me yelling at her to the party below, "Mom! Mom!" And I'll never forget this as long as I live. I actually believed I was going to die, and then I had the most peaceful feeling, and I'm telling you, I'm a nervous guy a lot, and that really has stayed with me my whole life, that I really do think that we're meant to be here forever, even though we don't understand. When Einstein said time was relative, he meant time was relative. Yeah. He meant it's different for different people. I really do think we're here forever. I know that I don't know that for sure, but I'm less the way I was when I was like 10 years old, which was like, I'm sure you had this too, where you went, where you realized you were going to die, after Santa Claus, and I would just sit in bed and go, I'm going to die. What's the point? I'm going to die. And now I realize it's more the fear of everything that
Right.
And so since I don't know, since I really believe that the moment of me dying is going to be one of those calm things, I don't have to worry. I want to live forever. I want to live. But you think when I'm 80, I'm going to go, that's enough? No. I'm going to say, keep going,
Yeah.
and who knows when it'll happen.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a positive message, but it works for me.
It's fantastic. Oh my gosh. I'm going to give you one more chance in just a second.
One more chance? Have I failed?
No, to plug anything.
Thought Spiral?
Everything. Yeah.
Yes.
That is a wrap on Comedy Wham presents Andy Kindler. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm sitting across. Still, sorry for being
Makes me, the fact that you're excited to see me makes turning me around on myself.
Okay, tell us where we can find you on social media. Oh my gosh, the Twitter account.
Yeah, Andy Kindler.
Absolutely.
If you that I would say is my greatest achievement that will never earn me a penny. Twitter's been my greatest achievement, also been the bane of my existence. It's and if anybody suffers from OCD, it's an OCD trap.
Yeah.
Because if you're checking your door to make sure it's locked every time, imagine how much you're checking the interaction area to see how people reacted.
Yeah.
So Twitter is the main way. AndyKindler.com is still around, but I don't update it enough. And Bob's Burgers, I'm Dying Up Here is coming out later on in the year. Thought Spiral podcast, and then just come by my apartment. And,
The address is.
the address of it. I'm at Andy Kindler.
No, I know.
I knew you were. I knew you were.
Trying to one-up me again, Andy.
No,
Because you know I don't edit.
Here's the
so,
thing. I'm gonna take the bait. 555 5th Street is my address.
All right.
Box
Fantastic.
555
Got
in
it.
555ville, Ohio. And guess what the zip code is?
32500.
55555.
Wow. That's fabulous. We hope you've enjoyed learning about how Andy got to be the absolute comedic genius that you heard today, just as much as I have. Be sure to visit ComedyWham.com, give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram at ComedyWham, and like our Facebook page. You can listen to past interviews on iTunes and your favorite podcast player. Review us while you're at it. This has been Comedy Wham presents Andy Kindler. I'm Valerie, and that's been funny. Thank you, Andy.
This was great. I'm so obsessive compulsive. I have to put my food away before the podcast, so let me ruin the ending.